back, and today I'm going to go down here on the old F-150. I'm going to clean up this gasket surface where the old pump came out. Our new pump arrived. Here it is. Looks pretty good. I checked it out and it's identical to the other one. All the bolt holes will line up. This one comes with a new gasket. And I see in the bag here, it's even got a little, there's an O-ring in here. It'll go on this outlet tube right here. I'm going to clean this off as well. Okay, let me start scraping that off and we'll see how clean we can get that. And what I'm going to use to clean off the gasket surface there, I got a couple of scrapers, and I got a brush, and I've got some emery cloth right here. It's not very heavy. I don't know what the grade is on it, but it's probably, looks like maybe 200 grit or something. I don't want to, gouge that aluminum surface, but I do want to make sure it's nice and clean. So I'm going to go over it with this. So see if we can get that cleaned up. Got most of that scraped off, and what I find helps is a little squirt of Windex when you soak it down a bit. Helps soften up the gasket sometimes. The other thing with keeping it wet is you never know when there's asbestos in a gasket, and so if you keep it wet, the asbestos can't be airborne. It's most likely just a paper gasket, but you never know, right? Manufacturers still use asbestos in lots of stuff. Anyway, this is actually a painter's scraper. You can see it's got this half moon on here for cleaning rollers, but it's a good solid scraper. It's made by Richard. I like this for automotive work too. It's got a got a good heavy blade on it, so makes a good scraper. I'm just going to go over that a little more. Most of it came off pretty easy. A little bit of scraping, a little bit of soaking. So I got most of the gasket off, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little of that emery cloth and clean up the rest of it. Okay, got the pump all snug down, nice and tight. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to put the radiator in. Okay, so here's the rad. I got it cleaned up. I basically went on the other side of it and took a soft brush and some soap and water, and then I gently went at it with the garden hose and just rinsed it all through. Get all that stuff off the bottom of the rad that was there when I took it out. Okay, and I got the orientation right, so I'm just got to check down in here and make sure that there's these rubber grommets for the rad on both sides. There's one here, and I see the other one over here, and everything's good, so I'm gonna just put the rad in there right now. Okay, so I got the radiator lifted in, and all that's left to do is pull it back gently and put these holders on it here, one on either side. Okay, I'll just get that done and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so the next step is really important. Okay, so if you've got new hose clamps, use them. Okay, but if you don't have new ones, use the old ones. I got some new ones here. I got one new one here, and I got a used one here. As long as they're in good shape, go ahead. Try not to put anything in there that's got a rusty head on it. Try and use ones that have a stainless or a plated head, so it's not going to corrode off. Okay, I've got both hoses in place. They're not tightened down. Other thing is, make sure before you tighten your hose clamps that you don't have any undue torque, left or right on the hose before you tighten it down. These are molded hoses, and they've got all the bends pre-made in them, so don't Don't force it, you know, it should fit. If it's not fitting right, you've got the wrong hose. So don't force it in there. It should fit like a glove, all right? Make sure you got no undue twists on the hose, you know. That'll just wear it out prematurely. Okay, so I'm going to tighten those down. And what I found, when you put a brand new hose in, make sure it is extra tight. You know, don't break the hose. You know, don't cut into the hose with the hose clamp, but make sure they are really good and snug, because what will happen is once the hose gets hot a few times and cools off, it goes through a few cycles. I've seen brand new hoses start to drip at the hose clamp because it's not tight enough. So make sure you get them good and snug on a new hose. Okay. There. That's looking good. Okay, and the next is I got to put the pulley back on for the serpentine belt adjuster. Remember we'd taken that off? And it's a left-hand thread, right? So put this down here. Against the stop to tighten it. That's good. Yeah, number one. Okay, now we're ready to put the serpentine belt in. Okay, so to find the routing for your belt, it's under the hood. See, it's on this this cover. It's the 4.2 liter engine. Make sure you got the right configuration. Okay, so it goes around like that. Okay, got that. That up over. Do that one. Over the alternator. Okay, I got the belt laid in there loose. Just gonna get on the tensioner here. Now, let's see here. There. Let's off that one a little bit now. Okay, make sure you get it all on every pulley correctly. You'll wreck it if you start it like that. That looks okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, we're getting ready to put the coolant in the engine. A couple things I want to check first. I just want to make sure I've gone over all my hose connections. Make sure I've got all the hose clamps nice and snug. I make sure that the drain on the radiator is closed. And there's another detail I do here. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take out the thermostat housing until I fill the engine to that level. And there's a reason for that. Sometimes you'll get a pocket of air at the top of the engine. And then when you start the engine, you're going to be waiting for the thermostat to open. And a thermostat doesn't work well in air. You know, it has to have water behind it. It has to have hot water behind it to reach temperature so it opens and passes out to the radiator. Now, if you're waiting, you know, running the engine waiting for the thermostat to open, you know, your engine can get really hot. You know, so I always try and sidestep that problem by bleeding the block, in essence, by opening up something on the top of the intake manifold when I fill it. So at least I fill it to that level, then I'll close it off, continue my fluid fill. Then when you start the engine, you know at least you've got your block is full of water. Okay, because on this particular engine, this is a Ford 4.2 engine, there happens to be a plug that you can remove on the cooling jacket on the intake manifold, and it's just down here. I'll show you. It's right, you see it right in there? I've got the plug out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the engine with coolant until I get it to come out that hole. Then I know that the intake manifold is full and it's not doesn't have a bubble of air trapped up in there behind the thermostat, because the thermostat is just below that towards the front of the engine. So I'll do that. We'll get the coolant to come out that hole. When it does, I'm going to put some thread sealant on this plug and then put it back in the engine, and then I'll carry on installing the coolant up to the proper level. Okay, so the mixture I'm going to use is a 50-50 mixture of coolant to water. Okay, so 50% to 50%. Okay, and the water I'm using is distilled water. Now, that's what you should use. That's what's recommended you use, because it's got no dissolved minerals in it that are going to make deposits inside your engine. But if you're a guy that takes your vehicle to a garage anywhere, pretty much anywhere, mechanics aren't going to be putting in distilled water. They're going to be, flushing and refilling your coolant system with new antifreeze and water from the hose, pretty much. It's going to be right out of the city mains. So, okay, here we go. This is the distilled water jug with 50-50 mix of coolant and distilled water. And it's yellow, it's not green. It's a different color than I'm used to, but that's okay. It's starting to show down there on the reservoir. Okay. Okay, got the plug back in. So the coolant is full up to that point. Now I'm just going to carry on filling the rest of the engine up with coolant. What I got here is the radiator fan. I've been cleaning it up a little bit. I got some soap and water here and a brush. Cleaning this up because I'm going to change this fan clutch. This is the fan clutch that came out of it. And it's got a bunch of corrosion and stuff on it. I don't know if it's failed or not, but it's probably never been changed. So they say that sometimes when a water pump fails prematurely, it could be because the fan clutch, is acting up and it's on the same shaft, right? So whether or not it is problematic or not, I've decided it's cheap enough to just change it. And this is the one that came for it. And you can see it's a different size. And I went in, I checked all the numbers, and let's say it's the right one. It's the right number, and it fits the bolt hole. It fits the pattern. I mean, I don't know if it's an improvement. This is probably the Ford Motorcraft one, and this is a Hayden aftermarket one. But anyway, I'm gonna go for it. It's probably the one that'll work because the number's the same. Even there was a number in here that matched exactly with the part number, the original part number, so it should do it. What I've done is, you can see the corrosion and stuff that's happened on this one. What I've done here is I cleaned this off with alcohol, and I painted it with there's a rust preventative paint, just a light coat of paint. So I don't know, it's gonna, if that lasted 17 years without any paint, this one probably would have too, but that's just what I like to do. And then I covered up the thermostatic coil here on the end, so that didn't get paint on it. And I just covered the nut here. Okay, take that off. There it is. That looks good. Okay, I'm just going to clean this up a little better, and we'll get ready to put that in. Oh, another thing is, here's the old water pump. And it pretty much feels like there's absolutely nothing, going on in there now. It doesn't seem like there's much resistance, so the seals are pretty well done. What I did was I took a screwdriver the other day and I bent these fins of the impeller up so I could look down in here at the mechanical seal, because that's where it would have gone, right? This is where the failure would have happened. Okay, just thought I'd show you that. Okay, so here's the fan clutch. So that would be the front of it there. This is the back that faces the water pump. And the fan is marked front. This is marked front right here. So that has to go on this way. And other than that, there's no other orientation. This can go anywhere, as long as the 4 holes line up. Like that. Okay, and I'm going to put a little Loctite on these bolts. Okay. There, cut off the tube of Loctite. I'm just digging a little bit out of the bottom there. That's better. Okay, and get a bit in there. Okay, and just one more thing before I put that in. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on these threads in here. That'll just help that come apart a little easier the next time. Okay, we're ready to put the fan in and the fan shroud. So if you remember how we took that out, we had the fan shroud sitting down in here. and then we put the fan inside of that. All right, I'll just go down inside like that. And you've got to sort of work them down together. Okay, so I got the fan shroud in here, and the fan sitting inside of it loose. And you remember when we took it out, there was two 8mm head bolts, one on either side of the top of the shroud. The bottom of the shroud sits into a little, like a cup. So there's this piece on the fan shroud that just sits down inside that cup, and on the top there's a bolt. And same over here, the little bolt right here. Okay, so okay, thread it on there by hand. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the pulley holder in there and tighten that with a wrench. Okay, you can see I got the holder in here, and I got the wrench in place. I'm just going to tighten that fan clutch onto the water pump. Okay, I've got that thing as tight as I can make it. I held on to that holding tool, and I actually stepped on the wrench. I got into a position where I could step on the wrench and tighten it. So I don't have a torque value, but it's snug. There it is. Sounds good. I'll check underneath for leaks later. That looks good.